We're back.
We're back. The boys are back in town. Guys, welcome to another podcast from Recovery Point. Today we've got Joe again from Gemini 4x4 and Willem van der Putte from IOL newspapers and Independent Online and all those lovely things. Um, Today we're going to do something a little bit different. And Joe, I'm going to put you on the spot first because you told me a little story about you and a Hilux and Hartbeespoort.
Yeah.
Please tell me about the first time you got stuck with a 4x4.
Okay, it wasn't the first time I got stuck. It was the first time I couldn't get out on my own.
But then you weren't stuck. If you can get out, you're not stuck.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying that was the first time I couldn't get out on my own. I was so deep in Hartbeespoort Dam that they towed me out with a boat and I drove that Hilux home.
And what Hilux was that?
1979, 2-liter Hilux, the one with the round lights. One of the first ones in the country. Yeah.
But you're gonna tell us a story a little bit later about one of your clients with his Disco 5. But first, I want to ask Willem. Willem, you've got a story about the unbreakable, unsinkable Raptor.
Well, it was not. Yeah, it wasn't the Raptor's fault.
It was the nut behind the wheel.
No, it was something entirely different. So we did the Marco Eco Trail a couple of years back, and I was in a Raptor and I was towing my off-road trailer.
Sorry, was this the new Raptor or
No,
the 2-liter
the 2-liter, the previous gen one. Yeah. And I'd planned the whole route and I'd done a whole lot of research and plotted my route. And our first evening would have been Christmas Day on the river. So it was a short drive we overnighted at Pofadder and then went straight through to my GPS coordinate. When I arrived there, the Orange River was a little bit too far away, because obviously, the river changes and, the sands of time, as it were. And I walked down, found a spot, nice grass on the edge of the river. It would be a fantastic day to spend Christmas Day. And it was just a question of getting there, putting the tent up, opening the first beer of the day, and putting up our Christmas decorations.
Sorry, what time was this in the morning?
This is about 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. So you're getting ready for the lucky Christmas
day.
Yeah,
we got the whole Christmas day. We had lunch. We had our lunch menu was all prepared. The wine was in the fridge. Ice was in the freezer. We were living our best life.
Until.
And what happened was, as I drove, the jockey wheel, which was stupid of me, I should have known, the jockey wheel came loose, became a sand anchor, and we were stuck. And on my list of things to do, I had sand tracks. On my list of things not tied down on the bakkie,
you forgot?
the bakkie or the trailer was sand tracks. So there we were. I mean, there's nobody. It's Christmas Day. You're on the Eco Trail. There's not another human being in sight. I think Witbank was like 14 kilometers away or something. And it was hot. It was extraordinarily hot. So I'm the kind of emotional I just go into panic mode. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to die. My partner, fortunately, she's an engineer, so she thinks of things differently. So she says, how do you eat an elephant? And my response wasn't particularly PC. I basically said, who eats an elephant? Bit by bit. So we dug and we dug. And it was our first day, luckily, so we had lots of bags of wood in the back. And as I lifted with the high lift jack, we would dig and we'd put the wood underneath it and we dug. It was so hot that the sand melted into the soles of our shoes, and because it's so warm, that soft sand just as you dig, it just comes down. So I was with the spade, and we had the wasbakkie ding, and we would just lift it, put it under, and every almost 20 minutes to half an hour, because it was so hot, we would walk down to the river and sit in the river, like fully clothed, just to get your core body temperature down again. And I think over the day we drank 5 liters of water each with rehydrate, because it was just insanely hot. First time, everything's lacquer, put it in sand mode, switch everything off that needs to be switched off, switch everything on. We go like 30 centimeters forward, and we're stuck. The whole process starts again and again. It was utterly exhausting.
So,
So
and how far were you from your campsite at that point?
maybe 150 meters. so now we continue this whole episode, and we put the umbrella up, and as everything, what I then did, I also had a recovery rope, which I wrapped around the rear, one of the rear tires, just to give it some extra grip. Kept on lifting with high lift jack, wood underneath, everything's lacquer. My partner goes and sits under the umbrella and said, all she said was, nou gaan ek bid. Ek said, ek hoop so, dat hierdie ding nou moet werk. And as I gently accelerated out, I could feel the car going, and as it lifted out,
Just floored
just floored it and got
Did
out.
you remember to put the jockey wheel up then?
The jockey wheel was gone. It was gone. We looked everywhere. There's just nowhere. It just disappeared. But
So hold on, for the rest of your trip, when you stopped, you couldn't unhitch the caravan.
no,
You
I
had to-
didn't. I had to use jerry cans. So, and that's in itself is a bit of an issue, because now you got to
It's not
reverse
very
this
stable
thing.
then.
Well, apart, yeah, but you got to reverse this thing, and you had literally have to reverse it or pull it to where you're going to stand, because there's no way you can't move it.
By hand, yeah.
And at 4:30 we were done.
Okay, but did you take into consideration that sand in the middle of the day when it's very hot?
Yeah, I
it's
know,
much
that's-
more difficult to
I
drive.
know.
So, Joe, just between you and me, and I'm going to say now what I would have done. Just from my side, if that would have happened to me, I would have stopped immediately and realized the shit I'm in, open up my umbrella and sit on it and wait until around
Yeah.
about 6 o'clock when the sun went down.
Dude.
Everything
Not just
cooled
that,
down.
unhook the trailer.
Oh, the trailer was unhooked. No, I unhooked
Okay.
the trailer. That's the first thing I did. And it just wouldn't, I mean, the car was on
Okay,
a
so
chassis.
you got out. How did you get back to the trailer to?
So I used that same recovery rope, tied it to the A front of the trailer, and
Just
what did I
plowed it
use?
through the
no,
sand?
no, I put something. I think I put a blanket or something underneath it, and pulled it out until we.
Okay.
And there's so much adrenaline running through you at that stage that I literally picked up that trailer and smashed it back onto the thing. So we didn't have Christmas next to the river. We were so gutful and so tired. We always take a two-man tent along just in case, because sometimes you just want a quick overnight. You don't want to do the whole trailer tent thing. So we just put up the two-man tent to the blow-up mattress, or the blow-down mattress, as they prefer to be called.
Yeah.
And had cold gammon and avocado for Christmas
on
dinner.
toast.
No, this is-
But just on that as well, it's something that people tend to forget. They will deflate the four-wheel drive tires, but they don't
yeah,
deflate
the
the trailer.
trailers. Yeah.
And that is all that weight on
Yeah.
normally narrow tires.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of weight on that. Whereas your four-wheel drive, that weight is distributed by four tires. Whereas on a trailer, it's normally two tires.
Yeah. I saw that, actually, now that you mention that, I saw that we did the river trip, the Guyani river trip. And my same trailer, and also another test bucky that I had. And I'd let down the tires of the bucky, and the trailer was light. It was just like 2 nights. There was nothing, it was just like easy. And you could actually feel, I stopped and I said, let me just drop them down. And the difference is just astounding.
Amazing,
It
yeah.
floats, as opposed to
Plowing.
plowing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was 2 years back. We did. We went to Opipana. Before that, we did Hunters Road. So I don't know if you've done Hunters Road before.
That's on my list.
But anyway, as you turn, we did it from Elephant Sands just up to Paramatenga. So it's just about, you sleep one night and then the next night you're out and you go back. And sorry, no, you sleep 2 nights. It's not far, but the terrain tends to
Take
get
time.
you down to 20 kilometers per hour, and and you don't want to drive the whole day. So we would drive and around about, and the idea was around 3 o'clock we would have been at our campsite. But as you get down to the border with the cut line, or with the two spoorrykie, you get to the cut line, and then you turn left onto the cut line, which is basically the cut line between Botswana and Zimbabwe. man, you can see the sand dune going to the north. And so I'm looking at this and I'm seeing this thing, and it's not a huge dune. It's not like Namibia type of dune. It's just a slight incline, and then at the top, but it's sandy all the way for about 2 kilometers. This sand bank is lying there that you first have to climb and get over. So I was there with a 2.4 Hilux, and I was towing about 1.5 tons behind me. It was an Invader Quattro or something like that. Now almost everyone had trailers. But you know, these old toppies, some of them will buy something and then, you know what, I need a microwave in this trailer. I need I don't know what. Some of them had stuff in that trailer and I'm thinking, or that caravan, and I'm thinking, why?
Mhm.
You're going camping. You're not bringing your home with you. But
Satellite dish.
satellite, I think some of them would be able to do 3D printing there, but with all the shit they were bringing along. And now, at that point, my daughter was 15, but she's been on a couple of 4x4 trips with us. So she knows that she listens to what I'm saying. Listen, make sure traction control
She
is
must be
on,
the
make
only
sure-
one that listens to what you say.
That's the problem. So traction control needs to be off. Make sure that your tires are deflated. Make sure that your caravan tires is deflated. Make sure this, make sure this. And she went around to each one of these guys. I mean, there was a guy with a Land Cruiser 300, the bottom of the range spec. I think it's the GS,
Mm.
GS, GX.
Well, you
GX,
say
I think.
bottom of the range, it's
But
literally
it's
under.
still over the
Hello.
There was a guy with 2.8 Fortuner that was kitted out with everything in the Fortuner. I don't know why it was towing
Christmas
a
tree
caravan
4x4.
as well. A Ford Ranger, a Jimny. The Jimny actually did quite well.
Yeah,
He
just
wasn't
light
towing
it,
anything.
Lightweight. Yeah.
Floats.
Then one of my mates with his Land Rover 110. So she went around.
So the Land Rover was all right, right?
I'll tell you now.
No.
So she went around telling everyone it was all right, but here's the
Oh.
funny thing: it was still broken. You couldn't get it in 4 low because some linkage was buggered during the trip, and now it's just stuck in 4 high. But anyway, so I've got the 2.4 Hilux, and I get over, and as I get over, I see shit, but there's still sand, and you can see the sand is warm. I mean, it makes that perfect V.
Yeah.
So you just keep going, and finally I get onto hard road or onto hard ground, and now I sit there and I wait and I wait and I wait, and we've got about 10 cars in the convoy, and no one is
awesome.
coming. Take out my drone, and that's about 1.5 kilometers
Back.
to the dune. So I'm flying the drone, and all I get to this point, and there's like 6 cars in different positions, but not moving. It's just sitting there. I'm like, oh my God, what now? Okay. So I unhook the caravan or the trailer, get back, and I get there, and it's chaos. Everyone is stuck. I mean, the Prado with the flippin', I don't know, Bush Lapa or something is stuck. The flippin' Fortuner is stuck. The Ranger is stuck. Everyone is just stuck. Now we're like, what the hell now? So the first thing I know is like, okay, guys, unhook. Who's got a kinetic rope for me? No one's got a kinetic rope. So
Hey,
okay, what
how do you
do?
go on a trip with that many people?
Oh, there's not one kinetic rope between you.
Hold on. I'm not using my stuff. They got stuck.
Oh.
Who's got a kinetic rope? No one's got a kinetic rope.
Invoice puppy. You saw.
So we start digging, and we dig, and we've got the mud tracks out, and we've got everything out. I think we lost in 3 sets of mud tracks. One of them was still a full set afterwards because you dig,
Oh, it
you
just
bury that
disappears,
mud
eh?
track
Yeah, they
just
just
deep in the
disappear.
sand. You don't
Yeah.
get it again.
But I
And
see a lot of guys put a rope on it with a.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your
That's a
best thing
nicky.
is just put a rope on
Yeah.
both of them, about a 5-meter rope, and you
Yeah.
put a little, you know, those small
Yeah.
buoys they use for at the dam.
Yeah.
Have one
Yeah.
of that in the middle. You'll never lose your mud track again. You
Yeah.
just pull that rope out the whole day. I mean, I think we got to the road at 10 o'clock. I wanted to get to camp by 3 o'clock next to this beautiful pan with water and trees and what have you. Yeah, finally, we got the one vehicle out. And other guys there, and I'm like, with a winch.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Well,
Land Rover has got a winch, but it's broken.
the winch or the Land
Obviously,
Rover?
Land Rover's winch was broken. Didn't work.
Mhm.
Something was wrong. Connections, I don't know.
Solenoids or whatever.
So we're standing there for an hour trying
But
to...
like also one winch between 10 cars.
Hold on. They've got a piece of rope. No, they're trying... So the Ranger is out, or one of the vehicles is out, and now his caravan is still stuck in the sand.
Yeah.
So we're trying to pull it with a normal tow rope, which is not really working because you need that little bit of a jerk to just pop it out and then move it. At one point, I'm like, guys, does no one have a winch? The guy with the fortune, his wife, walks along. It's like, Gerard, wat is daar agter jou nommerplaat? And he's like, oh yeah, I've got a winch. Flips it up. There's a flippin', I think it's like an 18,000 pound worn winch that sits there that's got Bluetooth. You work it from your phone almost, as fancy this thing is. So we got that one out. Now again, I'm walking around. I'm like, anyone's got a kinetic rope for me. That one's good. So did no one bring a kinetic rope, a snatch rope? Oh yeah, no, I've got a snatch rope. But it's the same thing. Kinetic rope, snatch rope. They look different, but it's the same thing. So now it's the Prado with the bush lapper behind it or something. I don't know. I get the 2.4 Hilux, the one with the smallest engine on the strip. I put it in front of the Prado, snatch it, pull him out. I can feel him coming, and I keep on going, and I get out. The guy gets out and is like, did you see how I got out myself? I was like, no. We left there 4 o'clock the afternoon. We had to camp in the middle of the cut line, in the middle of nowhere.
How did you get the caravans out?
Oh, there's a little video.
Oh.
And this was on Women's Day. We've got all the women behind the caravan pushing caravans full of sand. Yeah. But basically,
But it's great
people
stories.
didn't listen.
Yeah, but it's also great stories. You know, it's nice if you're a bunch of guys because unlike us, we were on our own. Then you start thinking.
Worrying, yeah.
Now it's like you know.
You can see the Blommetjies links to the road.
Yeah, and you can, yeah, and you can see a girlfriend going. You know.
But it's funny. After that, everyone got stuck. That evening, we were on the trip already for 3 days. We were in Tuli for 3 days, and then that evening, and the night before we were in Elephant Sands. But that evening, after everyone got stuck, everyone was sitting around the fire. Everyone was talking. Everyone was caring.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, strangers became a group, became friends.
As long as nothing breaks or nobody gets hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, then it's always fun.
But it was fun. It was frustrating as hell at some points, but it was fun.
Yeah, that's where the stories come from. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
nice.
We did a baboon. No, it wasn't a baboon. So it was a Rampai trip in Lesotho. And we normally, when we go, we do it in winter because it doesn't rain. So, you know, the rocks don't get slippery because there's 200 meters this side and a cliff over there. So you just want your tires to grip and go and not slide. So we do it in the winter. The coldest we had, the one trip was -19. So we literally put our meat and our cool drinks in the fridge to stop it from freezing. And one of the guys had a Range Rover, a classic Range Rover V8, and he broke a side shaft. And try as we might, we couldn't get that side. It had broken just inside the diff, and the magnets, it just would not come out. And to try and undo a whole back of the diff with the oil, and you're standing like this. There was a guy with a Jeep Rubicon, but also 37-inch tires. It was a monstrosity of a truck, and he towed that Range Rover all the way up the mountain, all the way back, until we got to the tar road and we could fix the car proper. But also, you know, those are the kinds of things that sort of make it fun, make it exciting.
It pulls a group together.
Yeah.
But listen, you've got a story about here at the Wild with a certain brand with an orange oval, not orange oval, green oval, a Disco 5.
Discovery 5, a client So he came as a normal
We're not
client.
going to mention names.
No, that's fine. I don't think he would worry anyway. But he came as a client, and then he became a friend and started coming with us regularly. He just enjoyed it. And one day we get to the mud pit here, and anybody who knows this place, that mud pit, especially in the wet season, you don't go in there with a standard vehicle. Anyway, we get there, and I say to the clients, don't go, my clients, I said, don't go in. And we're talking about how to assess the depth of the water and what you should do at a river crossing, etc., etc. And here rocks up a group. I'm not going to mention
No,
names.
you can. Let's call them.
Okay.
Let's call them
No,
out.
the bunch
Toyota
of
Alex.
us.
Toyota Alex,
Yeah.
listen up.
So the Toyota Alex rock up, and they are a bunch of cowboys, as we all know, and they start playing. They go forward in this thing, they reverse through it, they go forward, and now most of them have
I don't
got
think they're
modified.
all cowboys, though.
No, most of them. Anyway, so they've got snorkels on. Yeah, so it's modified vehicles to a certain extent. Okay, but they drive there, and Amanda takes videos of this, and then he decides he's also going to go in there with his Discovery 5. And I said to him, not a good idea. And the first time he reversed, he ripped the whole front bumper, which is PDC cameras, everything rips off. But he keeps his cool and says, no, don't worry about it. And keeps on driving. We get back here to this Lapa, we have a braai, and then he goes his way, we go back home. He phones me, says, no, damage, 180,000 Rand, water in the engine. Land Rover actually fixes this thing because of the videos that Amanda had. He took it to them and said, but if the Toyotas can do it, why can't my car do it? Okay, but that's not the end of the story. About 2 months later, after the car was fixed, he drowns the same Land Rover Discovery 5 in the same mud pit, another 180,000 Rand
For his bill this time.
for his bill this
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And then he,
No Toyota Alex to blame this time.
yeah, no, I don't know that, but I can tell you stories about that model. Got a client, not a client, we were with clients at Gartse Klip, and a young guy comes up to me. He said, this was a Saturday. He got the BT50 the Friday, the day before. Okay, he gets there and he knows the track because he says to me, the mud pit, is it? I said to him, no, we've had a lot of rain, don't go in there. I said to him, the other two next to it, that's fine, that's not too deep, you can go there, but don't go into the big one. Now my clients want to see this mud pit, so we go up there, stop there, and I said to them, don't go into the water. While we're standing there, he comes in with his BT50 that he got the day before, and he drives in and drowns the car. A day old, 1 day old.
I don't get. I mean, I don't get the whole mud thing. I mean, it's all, you know. It's, I suppose it's all right, but I mean, it's all shits and giggles until 6 months down the line.
Yeah.
That sand
You
just
sit with
becomes,
that shit.
but it just becomes grinding. It just becomes grinding paste.
Correct.
So
Into the bearings, into
all
the brakes.
your bearings, your brakes, everything just gets charred by that. And I had 20 minutes of
Oh, fun.
thinking I'm
I've got the biggest.
yeah, you know, I'm now a rally driver, and then you sit with the bull.
But I'll do it with someone else's car.
What if the guy gives you permission? Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for the warning. You're not getting my car.
Yeah.
Don't tell his Susan.
Yeah, and then just something we were talking about towing now and tire pressures and things. There's an old school thing. I don't know where it actually comes from, but I mean, I learned this when I was still at school, that when you tow a caravan or boat or whatever, you have to inflate the back tires to 3.5 bar or something like that. I have no idea why. Because a tow ball on a caravan or boat, that pressure, that the weight on that should only be about 100 kilograms, around about 100
In
kilograms.
extreme cases,
Yeah.
I think they go up to 150, maybe 180.
Correct, but that's
But your
one or two
the
people.
normal ones you have fitted at you know, they're between 50 and 100
Sorry, just to
kgs.
interrupt you, but now we're again back to the old toppies. And my dad was one of these guys. He got a Jurgens. What's the big off?
Exclusive.
No, the off-road one.
Oh, the Escape or
No, the bigger than the Escape. It was the flag off-road one.
No.
Still small, but it's the flag one. And in front there's a bed, but he didn't want a bed, so he took it out and he took it actually to African Outback way back when. I'm talking about late 2007, 2008, around there. and he installed a draw system in there. Now that was stainless steel.
It's a lot of weight.
That is an extra 300 kilos all of a sudden in the nose. So now you hitch that thing on the nose. Now it's not 150 kgs anymore. Now it's 250 kgs. So as we were crossing the Mahari Pan, his Pajero was towing this thing. His tow ball actually bent.
Yeah.
So me and my stupidity, first time that I'm towing something big behind me, I hitch it onto my bakkie. I think I did 30 k's, but I was deflated to 1.5 for the sand and everything on the Mahari. And that was probably a little bit too soft for the extra weight that I'm all of a sudden carrying. And that up and down of the caravan on your suspension and on your wheels with the softness, wheel delaminated, I lost the tire. So I should have brought that one up to maybe about 1.8 to 2 bar.
Yeah, I mean,
So
towing is a whole topic on its own, you know, and we need to get hold of Caravan Fani.
Caravan Fani.
Yeah, Brendan Stanley for
Oh yeah.
to sort of delve deep into it, but that's a whole different thing.
Caravan Fani can talk a lot about towing, but apparently with that trip with Ford, he wasn't that good with 4x4ing because didn't he land in the Millilanda?
No, that wasn't his fault. No, that was the current Mercedes-Benz PRO.
Mr. Justin Jacobs.
Yeah, no, that was also like mud, sure. Yeah. Mud's a difficult thing to drive in.
But gents, thanks for joining me on Recovery Point. Guys, please like, share and subscribe. If you want to watch anything that's 4x4 overland relating, follow us here on Adventure Africa channel. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Lekker.